Russell Westbrook has declined his player option with the Denver Nuggets. So what does it mean for Denver's squad heading into the 2025 season? Plus, Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar made some pretty impressive history that puts them among some of the greatest in franchise history. This is your Denver Sports Daily for June 13th.
The biggest stories, the latest news. It's Denver Sports Daily.
Russell Westbrook, undoubtedly one of the most polarizing figures of the Denver Nuggets squad during the 2024-2025 season. And that continues into the offseason, as it was reported by veteran NBA reporter Mark Stein that the veteran point guard is declining his player option for next season. He was due to make about $3 million, $3 to $5 million from the Nuggets in this upcoming season. And now faces a fork in the road. By declining his player option, he now has one of two courses of action. He can either test free agency waters and attempt to get more money from another team this offseason, or renegotiate with the Denver Nuggets to return for perhaps a slightly larger price than he would have under the previous agreement. Now, let's talk about what we think is the most valuable option or the best course of action for the Denver Nuggets as they maintain their status as a hopeful title contender. Russell Westbrook, during the course of the regular season, was actually more effective, I think, than people gave credit for. And I think that his presence helped the Nuggets maintain the chance to be a top 4 seed in the Western Conference playoff seeding and keep home court advantage through the first round, because it was Russell Westbrook who helped them buoy through injuries to Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, and the like, to be able to develop a two-man game with Nikola Jokic and maintain some form of offensive efficiency throughout the course of the 82-game regular season. However, in the postseason, as has been the case for the majority of Russell Westbrook's tenure over the last 5, 6, 7 years in the NBA, regular season Russ and postseason Russ are two very different people. The inefficiency that comes with Russell Westbrook's game that is so predicated on explosiveness and athleticism, which is at a declining rate for an aging player like Russ, who's entering his 18th season in the NBA. He's only got one speed, and it's pedal to the floor. And sometimes that's great, and it manifests itself in late game steals, hustle blocks on the defensive end. But it also manifests itself like it did in that dreadful game against the Timberwolves late in the season, with a missed layup that he didn't have to take, and then fouling Nickeil Alexander-Walker from beyond the three-point line on a shot that would have been difficult to make even if he was unguarded, which allowed the Timberwolves to win the game at the free throw stripe. So for Russell Westbrook, he is the ultimate yin and yang. He is the agent of chaos that sometimes it plays in your favor and sometimes it does not. And that creates a tricky situation for the Nuggets, who don't have a lot of roster flexibility because 82% of their payroll is locked up into their core four of Nikola Jokic, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon, and Michael Porter Jr. And they don't have a lot of opportunity because of the apron situation and limited draft capital to try to move and build depth pieces around that core beyond what's already on the roster. And this comes as a result of the ongoing feud between now former general manager Calvin Booth and former head coach Michael Malone. Their difference in philosophy put the Nuggets ultimately in a situation where they're stuck between the two differing paths, and it's going to be difficult for David Adelman and GM to be named at some point, we think, to battle their way out of that. So in my opinion, Russell Westbrook may actually be someone that the Nuggets, despite the inefficiencies that manifested themselves in the playoffs, need to try to bring back, because he was good with them in the regular season, and really it just came down to relying and needing him too much in the postseason. If they are able to get developmental steps from guys like Peyton Watson and Julian Strawther, and maybe some development from a returning Deron Holmes, who missed the entirety of last season with a lower body injury in his what would have been his rookie campaign. If they can find a way to rely on Russ less in the postseason, that I think will negate some of the negatives that hold against what he was able to provide in the regular season. Ultimately, it will be up to David Adelman and what is left of the contingency of that front office to decide what to do with Russ. And it will also depend on who else is courting for the veteran point guard services. We did get valid reports overseas that overseas leagues in the Middle East and elsewhere were prepared to offer Russell Westbrook a deal unlike ever seen before in international basketball, was the loosely translated quote that came out at that time. So Russell Westbrook may just simply become too expensive for the Nuggets, but if he's not, or if he has an inclination to return for a slightly larger bump, I think ultimately that would be the best case scenario for the Denver Nuggets with how little margin for error they have. In the NHL, two of your favorite superstars made history doing something we haven't seen in just over 2 decades, and that is Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar being named to the NHL's first All-Star team together, making them the first duo of Avalanche players to make that designation since the legendary Joe Sakic and Patrick Waugh during the 2001-2002 season. Nathan MacKinnon was also just outside the top 3 in this year's Hart Trophy winning, trying to make himself a candidate to win the award for 2 years in a row. He misses out by 1 point as a finalist to Tampa Bay's Nikita Kucherov. Cale Makar finished 6th in that voting, as we found out. The award obviously went to the insanely talented American goalie Connor Hellebuck of the Winnipeg Jets, who also won the Vezina Trophy for the league's best goaltender. Nathan MacKinnon and Cale Makar together represent the nucleus of the Avalanche's core, especially now that Mikko Rantanen has been traded to Carolina and then the Dallas Stars. These two represent the bastion of hope that the Avalanche can still remain Stanley Cup contenders with years left on their contracts. And it is up to Chris McFarland and Jared Bednar and the like to build around that core. And I got to be honest, when you're looking at 2 of the top 6 players in hockey, not just from a Homer burgundy and blue colored glasses perspective like we might wear here in Denver, but from a nationally recognized perspective within the league and within those who cover the league, being named 2 of the top 6 players in hockey by being both put on the NHL's first All-Star team shows you that the Avalanche truly year by year have fewer and fewer excuses to try to maximize that, given the concentration of talent that they have compared to other teams around the league. We are watching the likes of a Connor McDavid and a Leon Draisaitl make absolute postseason heroics in a Stanley Cup final right now. And sometimes it's hard not to rationalize that the Avalanche may have been 12 minutes away from having an opportunity to do that themselves with a 2-goal lead against Mikko Rantanen and the Dallas Stars in a Game 7 and watching that fold away and slip away. And then you watch what happened with Dallas against Edmonton, and we've seen the way that Edmonton matches up against Colorado in the past, and it's not illogical. It's not exactly rational or a guarantee, but it's not illogical to say that what we watched the Edmonton Oilers do in the Western Conference Final Series and doing against the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup Final Series could and maybe should have been the Avalanche in that position rather than Edmonton. It wasn't. You can't go back in the Wayback Machine and change it, but what you can do is realize the core talent that is available in 2 of the best 6 players in hockey, one of the greatest offensive defensemen in the history of the NHL, who won his 2nd Norris Trophy in a span of 4 years and has been a finalist for that trophy 5 times in his 6 years going into his 6 years in the NHL. Cale Makar's trophy case is getting to a point where it is so full through the first half decade plus of his career that he is putting himself potentially on pace to be among some rarefied air in NHL history. He was a finalist for the Norris Trophy 5 times. He has won it twice. He was the Conn Smythe Trophy winner during the Stanley Cup final year. He won the Hobey Baker Award and was awarded the Calder Trophy, the Calder Memorial Trophy for best rookie in the NHL during his rookie season, which started in the postseason where he came out in his first NHL game and scored a breakaway goal. Nathan MacKinnon's resume needs no introduction. He was voted the best player in hockey. He's been a finalist for the Ted Lindsay Award multiple times. And he is truly kind of that 1A, 1B type of player alongside the likes of a Connor McDavid, potentially Nikita Kucherov, and others who almost any GM in the NHL right now, if they had to start a team from scratch, Nathan MacKinnon would be on the very, very short list of players that you would want to start with. And Cale Makar, because of his prowess offensively, but the fact that he also plays defense as a defenseman, would be very high on that list as well from a utilitarian standpoint with what he can do on both ends of the ice. So for the Avalanche, the future could not be brighter in theory because of what they already have in-house. But the nature of the Western Conference and the way that it has built around them, the injuries that they've dealt with, Gabe Landeskog finally returning, and the hope that you can get him back for an entirety of a regular season to potentially help your seeding and maybe not have to play a team like the Dallas Stars in the first round. And if you do, not have to play them on the road as the lower seed when the season or the series gets deeper and deeper, would be massive. And then they're going to have some significant decisions to make with guys like Marty Necas, Charlie Coyle, Sammy G, both all three guys who have 1 to 2 years left on their contract and are due figures in terms of dollar amount that are somewhat maybe greater than the Avalanche would like to pay given their precarious cap situation. So this is a high stress environment for both of our Colorado teams, the Denver Nuggets, who are dealing with their Russell Westbrook situation as he declines his player option, and now the Avalanche with the concentration of talent that they currently have in the building for McKinnon and Makar, 2 first-team All-Stars in the NHL in 2024 and 2025, Valeri Nichushkin, Marty Necas, Gabriel Landeskog, and the like, and a revamped goaltender room with Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood. This is a time for both of these teams to push their chips into the center of the table. They did last season, and they busted. Can they do it again this season, upcoming, and break through? Because if they can't, it only gets harder year after year after year as the time dwindles on to return to that big stage, and you never truly know when you're going to get back. Thank you all so much for joining me. This has been your Denver Sports Daily for June 13th.